Welcome back. Hopefully you've watched the first of my video series and you'll be wondering what are we going to do next. So today I thought I'd do a couple of things. Firstly, just a quick revisit of what we did in the first video. So we've created some site columns, content types. We created a document library and configured some views. We set up some templated that to another library. I've created a few extra documents in here, and we also created an approval workflow that sent through some approvals. So the other piece of functionality which you often find in control document systems is a reminder workflow. So I thought I'd start with a simple reminder. So there are reminders built into SharePoint. However, building a custom reminder gives you a little bit more flexibility on how this might work. So just have a quick look at my library here. You'll see I've got documents. The documents which are being published have got a publish date and a next review date on them. The next review date in my workflow calculates the 1 year from the date that the document was published, just keeping it simple in that first approval workflow. So if I jump over to Power Automate, I can start creating my second workflow. So I'm going to jump into here. And this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new, I'm going to say scheduled Cloudflow. So scheduled Cloudflow runs on a timer, so you can specify maybe running once a day or once a week, whatever frequency you feel like. So I'm just going to call this one here my reminder workflow. I actually might call it control document reminder notification. What I normally do is I normally run this early in the morning, so before people arrive at work, so maybe 5 a.m. And rather than running it every minute, we might make it run once a day. Now, what that's going to do is trigger this workflow once a day at 5 a.m. to run, and it'll just repeatedly do that each day. So the process from here is now we've created this workflow. And as I said earlier, I'm old school, so I'm going to go back to the classic designer. I'm just going to create, I'm going to look at my document library. I'm going to find any documents in that library which are within 30 days of my review period. And then I'm going to send a notification out to the owner of that document. So you'll recall over in here, we've also got a document owner that can be different people. And so we'll send them a notification. So the first step we're going to do is we're going to get files. And we're going to use the get files properties only. And get files property only, we're going to tell this to look at our document control site and our library, our master library. So in this case, I'm running with the master library. We can do this settings here for limiting entries, including nested items, and so items inside subfolders. But the thing I'm going to actually use down here is I'm going to use this OData query filter line. But what we'll do is we'll do that in a little bit. What I'm going to firstly do is just do this, and just to show you how it works, I'm going to create a new step in here, and I'm just going to use a compose just so we can see what the output is of my flow. Because one of the first things that will happen when you do this is you'll go, I want to be able to test it, but I don't want to send email notifications to lots of people. So by using a compose, we can grab some metadata. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get the name of the document, and then I'm going to, you'll see how it's now created a for loop. That's because get files is getting multiple items. It returns an array. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put in a colon, and then I'm going to get the date field that I want. So if I scroll down here, you'll see I've got my next review date. So I'm going to grab that field there. Now, if we just do this and nothing else, I'll save my flow, and we'll just do a quick test. And what it'll show us is it'll show us each iteration of the library, which documents it's going to get. So we're just waiting for that to save. It's saving a little bit slowly. You see it saving up here. And any moment now. Just a reminder, this library's got 6 documents in it, 3 of which are published and 3 of which are in draft. So here we go, we're saved. Now I'm just going to give it a test run. And my first question for the audience today is, how many items will it return when it runs this flow? So let's run it. and we'll do a quick debug. So this will just help you to understand what's going on here. Now you'll see that ran pretty quickly, 1 second. But when I go into here, you'll see it's showing 1 of 6, which means it's returned every document in the library. And if I expand out my compose, you can see the document name and the reminder date down here. So let's just skip through those, and you'll see that it brings up each of the documents. So the third document should be that one there. So if we just look here, you'll see it's gone down order from oldest to newest, and so on. And you'll see that it's got some which don't have a date on it. Okay, so one of the things we don't want to do is send a reminder out when the document has no date in that field. So what we need to do is some sort of logic to check to see whether there is a date there or not. So let's just try it. Going back into our workflow, so we're going to edit this. And in our get file properties, down here in our query filter, we're going to do a filter on here. So we've got a date called doc next reviewed. So let's just start with our query filter. I'll zoom that a bit so we can see it. And the field was called doc next review. In fact, if I scroll it sideways a wee bit, we'll just make sure we get the right field name. Make that a wee bit wider. So it's doc next review. And we want to say it's probably less than or equal to, and you'll notice the notation here. So less than, so LE, or you could have GE for greater than or equal to, less than, and then we need a date field. So I'm just going to zoom back out a wee bit. And over in our expression, we're going to say less than or equal to UTCnow, which is the current date. So UTCnow is the current date, and then we just got to close that with a bracket. Now, let's have a look at this. If we go and save this one now and give it a test. So what that's going to say is anything with a date less than today, send me a reminder. So we'll run our flow. And this one should, hopefully, if we've got this run the right way, return no items because, and we've got a failed. So now let's have a look at why that is. Okay, and it was probably because we just changed something on that. So we just go down here and have a look at our show more. You'll see it's got this date range here. I think what we need to do is we just need to put that inside single quotes. It's always good seeing when you have a problem like that because it helps you to understand the flow. So let's have a look now and see what we go. There we go. It's saved. We'll run it. And we are done. So it ran successfully. So I was missing those quotes around the date field. And now if we look here, it's returned no items. And that's because there's nothing that's before today. So let's just go and change some data. I'm just going to go into here for a second. And we'll create a test, just a test to see. So I'm going to edit in grid view. And I'm just going to change this one here. And make the publish date, make it last year. And then I'm going to make this date here. And you'll see I'm in US date format. I'm just going to make it in the past. So let's make it last week, last Monday. And I'll just exit out of there. Oops, in fact, I'm 1 year out, so I've got to do that again. I need to make that 2025, otherwise it's not going to work. So let's go 2025. Right, so now its date is last week. I'm going to exit from grid view. And I'm going to run my flow. And let's just go back to here. So we're going to go edit. Well, we could have gone edit up the top there. Edit our flow. Okay, and I'm just going to go back to the old designer just for consistency. And because I'm more comfortable here, I know that some people are more comfortable in the new one. I'm more comfortable here because I think it's just easier for showing what I want to show. So now I've got the state in here, so if we run this test again, okay, and run the manual test, what it's doing is, because it's dynamically picking up that data, what it should do is it should now pick up one record, our overdue item. So if we look in here now, you can see it has returned one, and it's our document here, and you'll see it's picked up the date that's in the past. So that's how we generate identify the items which are in our in our list. Now, what we can do is we can use a function called AddDays, which I use in the approval workflow to calculate the date for the date that we are using for the next review. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use a little compose. So you can use a variable for this. Compose will also do the same thing. So I'm just going to use a compose. What I'm going to do with compose is I'm just going to calculate my date. So I'm going to go into here and I'm going to create this compose. I'm going to use an AddDays. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add days to UTCnow. And then I'm going to add 30 days. So that's going to say, take today's date and add 30 days to it. And then what the workflow is going to do is it's going to look for anything due within the next 30 days or in the past. So that's how you calculate forward. And what we're doing here is because we're using a compose, it is going to, or a variable. So you could use the same thing with the date variable. I'm just going to rename this one here. I'm just going to go, so add 30 days. Right, so then what that's going to do is that's just giving me a label so I can see what this is doing later. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit this. And instead of using UTCnow, I'm going to use the output of my add 30 days compose. So if we just scroll that up a wee bit, you'll see that there. Let's use that instead. And then let's just do another wee test. So if I take this one here, this document, and what we're going to do is we're just going to say its reminder date is, let's go back up here, it's currently the 20th of July. So I'm going to make it the 6th of August. And I'm going to exit from there. We're going to save the flow with our new configuration. And then we're going to run a test. And this should return 2 documents. The document that's in the past plus the one which is within the next 30 days, if we've got the calculation right. Okay, so here we go, and we have 2 items, and you'll see the first one, and then if I skip through to the next one, you'll see it is our HR document, which is the one here that I updated the dates on as well. So that's a simple way to test that your flow is bringing through the right information. Now, the next thing you want to do is actually send a notification out. So I'm going to edit this again. And this time what we're going to do is we are going to add another action under here. So we're going to go new step. I'm going to keep this one here because it's useful for debugging, and I'll show you a little trick. So now what we want to do is we want to send email. And I'm going to use this send an email v2 Outlook email notification. And we're going to send it to the person who is in our document owner column. So this column here is called document owner. So we're going to use the dynamic content again. And we're going to use our document owner email. And you'll see it puts it inside a loop. So we'll just rename this one here to send email notifications. And then it's putting it inside the loop for the same reason why our compose above went into a loop, which is because we're using an array of documents. So now we're going to put in our subject line. So control document review due. We'll put the name of the document in here so that people can find it. So we'll just use the name again. And then in our message down here, we can say something along the lines of hello, and then we might get the name of our, in fact, actually it's our document owner display name. We'll make this nice, the following controlled document is due for review. Please review for and send for approval before the due date. Okay, and we're going to put in here, I'm just going to put in a couple of items. So I'll put in the name of the document again. so that the person knows which document it is and the date that it is due. So we'll put our reminder date. Whoops, it's review, next review date. And then what we can do is if we wanted to put a link in here, we could do something like this. View document. I'm going to select that. I'm going to use the hyperlink option here. Our target is going to be our link to item. So actually do that again. So I'm just going to go like that. Use this in the target. We're going to go link to item, which will be the link to our document. And then next thing we're going to do here is just go and have a quick look at the code. So if we do that, we can click into code view. You can see that's just put a link to the item in the document here. So it's not particularly super friendly. What we would like to do, let's try that again. I'm just going to go back out of there, back to the view. I'm going to say insert a link. And our title is going to be view document. And our link here is going to be from our dynamic content. It's a tricky little thing, isn't it? So view document and then link. Maybe do it this way. View document. Select it. Yeah, it's got the title in there, so hopefully that's going to link in. Okay, I think it's just done it again. I think the same thing. So we might need to end up editing some HTML. Yeah, we will. Okay, so I'm just going to go in here and just go ahref equals our code view document. If you don't need to know how to do a hyper, if you don't know how to do a hyperlink, I can share the code into the comments or my blog. So we'll just save that. So what that's going to do now is it's going to send an email for each document to the document owner for each document that they have that's due for review within the next 30 days. And so if we just go and open my Outlook, and while it's doing that, what we're going to do is go back over here and we are going to, I'll just show you a little debug trick while Outlook's opening, is if I wanted to stop this workflow from sending the email, so I need to test it, I can click into here and I can add a terminate. And with terminate, you can tell it to end the flow. So this means this is a good way if you're just wanting to test to see which documents are coming through, terminate the flow rather than sending the email notifications out. One of the big challenges that often happens with large document libraries is you might have many emails that go out in this flow. Okay, so we're going to do one more thing here. So I'm just going to go test. I'm going to test the flow and I'm just going to go test the flow. And then I'm going to test the flow now by running it. And then once we've done the test, what should happen is I should get a couple of emails in my inbox. So let's just see what happens in flow. So again, reminder, this is just returned 2 items. Email notifications is also returned 2 items. If we can go and look into here, we can actually see the format of the email in HTML on there. And if we wait a moment, we should get some emails. Here we go. Our email's coming into here for review with our notification. And if I click onto the review document, it should come up here. Okay, so there's something wrong with my security, but what should happen is that should open that document up for me into a view so I can see the document. And you'll see that the other one here has picked up my other document as well. So I get 2 notifications. So that's the simple notification workflow. You can customize this much more than this. You can make it set statuses. For example, tell it that that document has been sent for, that a notification has been sent for review to start the review so that you can track that as a document controller and see which ones have notifications gone out for. There is one limitation with doing this process, which is that the this get file properties item here will only return the first 100 items that it gets. So for more than 100 items get into that view, then you'll need to add some handling in to do it in pages, so loop around and go more for each group of up to 100 items. So hopefully that's been useful. If we, the next video, what I'll do is I'll do some things around search, I think, because they'll take a little bit of setting up in advance. So I'll come back to those ones and try that. But just a reminder, in the first video, I've got the approval workflow. So if you haven't seen that one, jump back to the first video as well. Thanks very much.